mission here is to just provide some info. I know that pest control might not be the most attractive thing in the industry, but it's something that, I feel like, every community has some sort of dealing with to some extent. So I just want to share some knowledge, let you know a little bit about what we do, and then see if there's any way we can help. So, again, just been around for 25 years. We have offices in East Brunswick, Paramus, Voorhees, and Devon, Pennsylvania. So we're very, we service all of New Jersey and Eastern PA. And then let's get started. So some of the things I'm going to talk about today is just outdoor pests, occasional invaders, structural threats, and wildlife. And then also, I'm going to be sharing some things that are specific to certain types of communities. I know that Denali has, a wide range of, amazing communities that you guys manage, from like high rises to HOAs and condos, townhomes. So, there's going to be some things that are more specific to one type of community and more not so to the other. So, I'll differentiate that. So, the one of the things that are most common to every community, really, but specifically to like the condo and HOA communities, are the stinging insects. You don't get, a ton of these in the high-rise communities or mid-rises, but you'll get them a bit, occasionally. This is everything from wasps, hornets, carpenter bees, regular bees. It's just stuff that, you'll find, and most of the time in the landscaping. Sometimes they'll show up, attached to the building. And, there's a wide variety of reasons that they're there. Most of them are pollinators, so that, they're going to be around a lot of like bushes, trees. One of the main things I wanted to discuss here is that, there's, we can treat for almost every type of stinging insect except bumblebees. Bumblebees are something that is protected and have to be handled by a professional beekeeper, especially if the hive is active. So, if you're talking to a pest control company and it's a honeybee situation, it should not be treated for or removed on site. Again, that should be through a professional honeybee keeper. And what we always do, and what we'd like to tell all the managers, that we'd like to be a resource. So if you're not sure if it's like a honeybee, regular bumblebees, just reach out. I'm always happy to either take a look at some pictures you might have, or just visit the site and let you know. We do have different honeybee keepers that we work with throughout the state, which we would be happy to refer if it is a honeybee situation. Just because, again, those have to be handled, in a special manner as per, the regulations. Is another thing. This is more common, I would say, in wooded areas, and then also, mid to high rises is mice. And I hope everyone has eaten before this, because I know this is not the most attractive thing, but it's something that everyone, is probably going to encounter at some point during their career as a manager. Mice can be very tricky because they can enter through so many different areas of a building. They can enter through utility lines. They can enter through, just right under the doors if there's no door sweeper. Little holes in the foundation. It's very easy for them to get in. One of the things that you want to do if you have a mice issue is get it solved immediately, because mice don't really go away. They repopulate very, very quickly. And I don't know if anyone's ever dealt with a mice situation, but it can very quickly go from a few mice to a lot of mice to too many mice. So it's some of the things that, if you're having an issue, you want to be very proactive with it and make sure that it's handled, as soon as possible. And, it's just basically, what Anchor does is we always try to be proactive when it comes to pest control. So this involves, like, the monthly treatments. We come out, if the community requires bait stations, we, inspect and rebait the bait stations, spray the exterior of the buildings, look for any signs of, nesting, do some preventative care. We have all types of plans So we do, seasonal treatments because some communities, need that only from, I would say March to October. We do monthly treatments where, it's year round, quarterly, and then we also do one-time treatments if the community, doesn't have too many pest issues, but once in a while does. We also do one times as well. And the most important thing is, about pest control, it's I would say it's easier to keep a pest out than to remove a pest. And by that I mean, being preventative rather than reactive. A lot of communities, you know, I would say don't set up a pest control where they're proactive. It's more like reactive, like, oh, I've had, a recent mice issue, so let's set up some bait stations, check them, and get it going. Really, it becomes, like, again, a lot easier to keep them away than to remove them. So I always, encourage proactive pest control versus reactive pest control. And I always like to position myself as a resource. So if the community is not sure on what their pest control service plans should be, I'm always happy to come out, again, take a look and just give you guys some suggestions based on what I see, issues that the building is experiencing, just to, share some expertise. The next topic I'm going to talk about is structural threats. I'm sure everyone has dealt with at some point, some type of structural threat. So these are, termites, carpenter bees, carpenter ants. They look to, obviously some eat wood and some nest in wood. It's not something where if you see a couple termites, the building's going to fall down. But if left untreated, it can cause like very, very bad structural damage. Most of the time, when people see a termite, it's a sign to start doing something, right, about the issue. What we also offer is just inspections, just to try to, again, get ahead of the problem. Usually, if you start seeing termites, it's because there's already a termite colony under there. We can usually find signs of termites before that. So, and especially in, you know, I would say areas where there's a lot of moisture, it's important to, get an inspection for termites, so that it doesn't become a bigger issue later. And right now is actually, I would say, termite season. So this is when you start seeing a bunch of what we call swarmer termites, which are the termites with the wings. So they'll come out, they almost look like a flying ant. It's very, very easy to confuse an ant versus termites. Right now, we're getting a bunch of calls, and most customers, are say they have an ant issue, and then we show up on site, to do the inspection, and it ends up being termites. So I would say it's about like 60% of people right now that think it's ants. It's actually termites. So these are the swarmers. Those are when it comes out, looking for food, looking to colonize. Usually you'll see them after a large rainfall. But again, if you're seeing swarmers, it's a good thing because that means that now you know that there's termites. Now we can treat for them rather than them, hiding behind the drywall and eating away at the building for years and years and no one noticing. We do different types of termite treatments. So we do a liquid treatment around the building. We also install, after liquid treatment, we also install termite bait stations. And the reason we do that is because it helps, first, it helps us keep them away. And then second of all, it also acts as a monitoring system. So, once a year, let's say if we install termite bait stations, once a year we'll come out and check if, there's feeding at the bait stations. If there is, that kind of indicates, hey, there might be a new termite colony, or there might be, some part of the termite colony that survived, and it would need to get retreated. So anytime we treat a building for termites at Anchor, we offer a 1-year warranty. That's why we install the bait stations, because we, warranty the building for a year. If that building has any more termite issues for a calendar year, we come out and retreat at no additional cost. And that's why we install the bait station, so we can come out and check to make sure that you guys aren't having more termite issues at that building. Then we can also renew the warranty every year. So every year that warranty is renewed for 10% of the original price. So, just basic treatment. Let's say it's $1,000 for a building, year one, year two, three, and so on and so forth. It'd be $100 to just renew the warranty. So that's something that we offer that's a little bit different than in other companies. And that's because, we of the method of our liquid treatment plus our bait station that helps us be able to monitor and protect the building from termite damage. We also do something called termite warranties. We started doing that over the last 3 to 4 years. It's something where, well, the service plan is that we basically, inspect all the buildings for current termite issues. If none of the buildings have current termite issues, what we do is we offer a warranty where, we for a fee per building, we warranty all the buildings in the community. And then if they experience any termite issues, or suspicion of termites, we come out, inspect, and if confirmed, treat at no additional cost. The reason we started doing that is because, a lot of feedback we were getting with termites, especially in communities that had a big problem with them, is that it was hard to budget for. It was hard to budget these one-off expenses. So we did a termite warranty plan where for a set price every year, that, X amount is going to go towards a termite warranty and treatments included. So it helped the communities, again, budget for it and keep it in mind when, doing their budget for the next year. Yeah, I touched on this earlier. So carpenter ants, usually you'll first see them around the trees near a building, and then they slowly make their way, into the house. They can be confused with regular ants. They're just a lot bigger, but they are, structural threat. So again, if there's ever a question, if it's an ant, carpenter ant, reach out to me and I'll be able to confirm, usually through a picture, or if not, always happy to go on site and let you know what it is. And we obviously we treat for both, so I'd be happy to help with both. Carpenter bees right now again is the season for them. April, May is when you start seeing a lot of carpenter bees. Usually you'll see them in corners of building, in peaks of building, eaves. They, they don't, eat the wood. They really just like excavate the wood because they want to nest there. So usually you'll see them, popping up in the same places year after year. We do a treatment where we treat the entire building, not just the one affected unit, and it helps repel carpenter bees from coming back to that whole building. And because of our method of treatment, we're able to, same thing as the termites, offer a 1-year warranty if we treat the entire building for carpenter bees. So a lot of times we also treat preventatively for this, just on buildings that have a known issue where it helps, stop them from nesting and making those holes. Because once they do, it's hard to get them out. But if you stop them from nesting and overall, again, same method as before, it's easier to keep them away than to take them out. And then, I'm sure you guys love when you guys have wildlife issues. But that's one of the things that, we really started doing a lot over the last 10 years is wildlife. And just because of the demands, we treat from with every wildlife to include raccoons, squirrels, flying squirrels, groundhogs, and bats. And you'll find that different parts of New Jersey have more common wildlife than others. So what we do, or actually let me go back. So what we do, especially during this time of the year, is we always like to do an inspection first, because a lot of the times, especially again this time of the year, like raccoons right now, we can't remove, right? Because they've already mated and they've had babies, and we can't, we're not allowed to like, remove the babies through a trapping system. So we always come out and inspect and give you guys, what we think the service plan should be. Same thing with bats. Bats are protected very heavily. So bats usually are treated in April, April 1st to April 30th. They've extended that timeline a little bit just because there was a high uptick in bats this year. And then we can treat again in October for bats. So, during that time, during anything outside of that timeline, we cannot treat for bats. But we can give you a service plan to treat once, once it happens again. I see there's a hand. So, I think Annie wanted to wait for all the questions to the end. So if you want to just write down the question, then I'll answer any questions at the end. So what we do in terms of wildlife is we have a few different types of treatments. And so we do a one-way door, which, we put up a door where the animal can exit, can no longer enter. And after the animal has exited, what we do is we seal up the entry point with wildlife-proof material. We do a trapping program, which is a Monday through Friday program. We come out every day, check the traps, remove any animal caught in the trap, and then reset the trap. It has to be every day from Monday through Friday, because that's what the regulations are. You can't go a day without checking the traps. So that's why we always do Monday through Friday. And then we also do an exclusion where if it's a building that is, consistently year after year getting, squirrel issue or raccoon issue or bat issue, what we do is we come out, and we, first of all, remove any current animals. And then second, we fortify and close any current and existing entry points with wildlife-proof material. Basically, saying that we're going to make the building wildlife-proof, and that comes with a 1 year warranty as well. So that's a little bit more I would say like construction and handyman work, but it's a service that we do to again help out the community because if we could install one-way doors forever on a building, but that doesn't really solve the issue. It's more like a bandage. What we do for that's a permanent solution is the exclusion service. And so again, that comes with a 1 year warranty, and just like the termites, that warranty is renewable for 10% of the original price every year. And the reason we do that with a lot of our services is because we strongly believe in doing the best job that we possibly can. So the renewable warranty helps us, kind of keep us honest to that because, of course, we don't want to come back every month because we didn't do a good job the first time. We want to make sure that the job is done right the first time so that, we put the warranty in place. And then if they make new holes or there's a new issue, you're covering the warranty. But it also helps us keep us honest and make sure that we're doing the best job we can the first time so that, there aren't a lot of callbacks and service calls. These are some examples of just some wildlife work that we've done over the last couple of years. You'll see the picture on the left, top left, there was a hole that a squirrel was getting in through. On the right, you see how we patched it up, and under in that gap right there, we put a lot of meshing that is wildlife proof so that the squirrel can no longer get back in. Same thing here. That was believe like a vent that they made a hole through. Same thing, patched it up and then put mesh behind it so that a raccoon can't get through. Just some other examples. What you'll find a lot of times is the squirrels access and raccoons access buildings through either gutter lines or trees. So, some tips I would say is to, if there's any branches that are overhanging a building, to just cut them down as much as possible. It's going to help with the squirrel issue. They can go up the gutter, the downspouts, but the less access they have, the less likely you're going to have a squirrel raccoon issue. Bats is just certain parts of New Jersey are going to get bats, but when you do have an issue, we're there to help. And then one important thing that I want to cover is mosquitoes and ticks. There's a report that recently came out where this year is one of the highest years in the last 15 years of reported tick activities and tick diseases caused by ticks. Usually when you have a cold winter, it means you're going to have less activity with ticks. We had a cold winter, but the amount of tick issues that are reported around New Jersey had been a record high. So we also do mosquito and tick treatments for community. You'll see this a lot in either wooded areas or areas that have still water. And what we do is we spray all the tree lines, all the mulch beds, and anything around the community that is going to be conducive to mosquitoes and ticks. We recommend treating the entire property line because ticks can and mosquitoes can live anywhere. So it's good to help control the situation. And this is important, especially with mosquitoes and ticks, but almost all service. So the reason that we call it pest control and no longer extermination is because we're never saying that we're going to get rid of all the mosquitoes and ticks near the community. What we're saying is that we're going to reduce the population as much as possible so that it is not a reoccurring issue for the residents. That's our objective. If I were to sit here and tell you, yeah, you're never going to see a mosquito and tick again, I'm pretty sure you'd be calling me back very quickly because that is sometimes not possible. But what we do is we try to control the situation as much as possible to not have a negative effect on the residents' day-to-day life. And then some places I'm sure that you guys have some communities that are right by a river, bay, other places of still a pond, other places of still water, where the mosquito problem actually gets very, very bad. What we do is we have some devices that we use to that kind of helps greatly reduce the mosquito situation. It's not something that we use in every community, but some communities definitely need it. What it does is that it sterilizes the mosquitoes, the male mosquitoes, so that they can't reproduce. And it's called an into care. And what that does is obviously if they can't reproduce, the population is going to decrease very rapidly. So that's one of the things that we do to help with some communities that have very very bad mosquito problems. We also have a similar box when it comes to ticks, just because of again the amount of tick problems that have happened this year. We went back to our suppliers and asked them if they had a similar thing to ticks, which they do. So now we also put tick boxes out around in some communities that have a big tick issue. Again, it sterilizes them and stops them from reproducing so that we can, very quickly and efficiently control the tick population. And then, this is just some things that I'm going to ask when I do a site visit. What's the pest? If you know the pest, how often are you seeing it? Just questions that are gonna help me again try to see what the issue is and what the service plan should be. I think I touched on this earlier, preventative versus reactionary pest control. We always try to be preventative as much as we can. We know that, it's not always possible, but every service plan that I'm going to give initially is going to be with a preventative state of mind. It means that, what I'm trying to do is make sure that this issue, if you have a current issue, that it goes away and then doesn't happen again. If you don't have an issue, um, to keep it like that, right? But then, again, not every community does it. So we also have the reactionary treatments, which is the one-time treatments, or the extensive, let's say there's a rodent issue, we do a rodent clean out, where we do intensive trapping. We do have that.